Yeah, what's happening? So I want to talk to you guys about going to the cinema. I don't go cinema all too much these days. I think for about the past like 6, 7 years, give or take, I just haven't really been cinema that much in the last while now. And I want to talk about why that is because there's definitely a few reasons why that is. And one of them I think is kind of an age thing, I guess. It happens, right? But the other reason, first reason, I feel applies to a lot of people. But here's what I say first of all, though, is that I do believe that cinema is the best way to watch a movie. I do believe that the cinema provides the best way in terms of picture quality, in terms of sound, in terms of just overall viewing experience. And definitely believe that most, if not all, movies are made with the intention to be watched in the cinema, and then they're adapted to other formats later on. But they're made with the intention to be watched in the cinema. So that is the way the filmmakers intend for you to see this film, is the cinema experience. So I do appreciate the cinema. I like the cinema. I still want to keep going to the cinema when I can. But yeah, these days it just doesn't happen so much anymore. So let's talk about why that is now. So the first reason I'm going to talk about, I feel like this applies to a lot of people, where the incentive to go to the cinema, I feel, is very, very low these days. And that, I think, is to do with streaming being as big as it is. Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, and all the other streaming platforms that exist in today's world. The cinema to streaming, time frame is small. It's small. It's like maybe a few months, like 3 months maybe, or something like that. Like, I think it's the average about 3-4 months. And I think some of it even been quicker than that. I know with Netflix, they're a lot quicker than that. Like, Netflix put their movies out a week or two later than it's on Netflix. They put their movies in the cinema, but a week or two later, it's just on Netflix, to watch there. And I think I've read or heard somewhere that Netflix pretty much just have their movies in the cinema for the minimum amount of time it needs to be in a cinema to be eligible for Oscar nominations. The minimum amount of time. So yeah, a week or two later, and you're just gonna be watching it on Netflix. So the cinema to streaming platform is small. Time frame is small. Whereas back in the day, back in my day, right? The cinema to TV time frame was long. Like, you'd be waiting years, like literally years. Like, a minimum was like, I think 2 years. I think maybe average like 3, 4, maybe 5 years or something like that. But you'd be waiting a long time from the cinema to the TV, or even with VHS. And I did say VHS, cassette tapes. Remember that? That was like, 8, 9 months, 10 months. I think I averaged about a year or so, give or take about a year. But either way, you waited a long time before it's in a much more accessible format. These days it's, a few months, maybe 4 or 5 months at the most. It's you're not waiting that long anymore. And, maybe for people who, like, if I worked in an office still, where I was around people who were, watching the same sorts of movies as I was, maybe the incentive to see it in a cinema might still be a bit stronger for me if I was in that environment. Or maybe for people who are, in school, because your friends are seeing it, maybe the incentive is a bit stronger there. But I do feel like, just in general, the incentive is just lower because of that. Like, it's just much lower. And certainly for people like me, where it's like, I see people in my normal work, but I'm not necessarily seeing the same people all the time. So it's not like I have to worry about, talking about a movie the next day. I don't really have to worry about that. And I'm not really on a lot of the forums like that, to internet forums like that, to be worried, to be talking about with there. So, like, perhaps if I was, my incentive might be a little bit higher, maybe, but I'm not. So it's not, and I think there's a lot of people who kind of feel like that as well. The incentive to watch movies in the cinema, knowing it's going to be in a much more accessible format in not that long a time, It's kind of like, do I bother? Do I bother? And especially when it's like a film comes out and you kind of want to see it. You're really excited to see it. Something happens, so you don't get to see it wait. You don't get to see it the week it comes out. Maybe something happens, so you don't get to see it the next week, for the next 3 weeks. And then you kind of like, it's probably going to be on Netflix in a couple more weeks. It's going to be on Disney Plus, in a couple more weeks. Like at that point, why bother? You know what I mean? Why bother? And yes, I know. It is the best way to watch a movie. I still believe that. I still think that. I still, I'm on board with the cinema being I'm not disputing that at all. But at the same time, convenience, bro. Convenience. Once you've missed that opening, first couple of weeks or so, first 2-3 weeks, it's kind of like, I just wait for it. Yes, it's fine. It's fine. So yeah, I feel like the incentive to go cinema is just a lot lower. Lower certainly for men. I think lower in general, but certainly for people in a situation where you're not worried about talking about it with, that kind of thing. It's just lower. It's just lower. And the other reason I think I don't go cinema too much is just like the time cost of it, because it's not just a 2-hour movie, right? Or 2.5-hour movie. It's like, how do I navigate that into my day? How do I navigate? Is that the right word? Or whatever. Whichever word I was supposed to have said, pretend I said that. But it's how do I incorporate that into my day? Because I've got to think about, okay, so what time does the film start? How far is the cinema from me? How long is it going to take me to get there in the traffic during that time? Do I have to do anything beforehand, to make sure that by the time I get to that time, my schedule's clear and that kind of thing. I've got to think about that. So maybe I have to move some other stuff around. I've got to think about like, toilet breaks as well, because, I try to go, I try to have toilet breaks like every 2 to 3 hours. That's kind of the ideal, well, at least for me anyway. Maybe other people it's different, but for me, I feel like about every 2 to 3 hours, where you're not, going too frequently, but not, holding it too long. You want to maintain a pee schedule, is what I'm trying to say. It's a good idea to maintain a pee schedule. So you got to think about, okay, so how does it fit into that? And do I have to make any adjustments? And especially when it comes to longer movies that are like, 3 hours, 3.5 hours, and, that kind of thing. You got to think about like, how does it all fit into the day? Because it's not a question of, I can't hold my pee for however long. It's just like, I don't necessarily want to either. I don't, strictly speaking, want to do that. Like, I mean, if you do what you got to do at the end of the day, right? If you have to do it, you have to do it. If that's the situation you're in. But if you don't really have to, when there's a toilet just down there, you just get up and go. You really want to be, what I'm saying? Like, especially when you get to that point sometimes where it starts to get a little uncomfortable, depending on your day, depending on what you drank earlier or how much you drank earlier and things like that. So that's another thing you got to think about, because of course you want to maintain your water intake and make sure you drink enough water, but at the same time you want to make sure that you're not drinking so much water beforehand that by the time you get there it's just all trying to, you got to think about that as well. So like, depending on how the day works out, you might get to a point where it's a bit more intense than normal, you know what I'm saying? And if that's like, I don't know, you like hour and a half into the movie, you got like another, 30, 40 minutes to go or something like that. Now you got to make a decision. Do I hold it for the next 30, 40 minutes and be uncomfortable for the next 30, 40 minutes? Do I do that? Or do I just get up, go down to the toilet and miss the next 5 or so minutes of the movie, or I go there, do my business and come back? Do I do that? Either way, it's a bad choice. And I ain't gonna lie, like sometimes, I mean, I think for the most part, the cinema toilets are pretty clean most of the time. Most of the time. But sometimes you kind of got to be careful, I find. Like, you kind of got to, like, pick your points pick your moments when you want to go to the toilet. Like, I find, like, if you go to the toilet, like, right before the movie, that's when they tend to be like the most packed. Because I get it. People try to use the toilet before they go to the movies. So they're usually packed right before any movie starts. And at that point, by the time you get there, you could be waiting a while to get into the toilet, which means you could be missing the movie for one thing, depending on what time you actually got there. If you got the traffic right, you didn't get delayed and this, that, and the other, so you try and get into the toilet, you're waiting to use the toilet because it's packed out. So there's like a queue there. And then by the time you get there, it's just dirty because there's so many people been using it. And, so many people just nasty, man. Like, I don't know, like, it's like, what? I don't understand how you can't piss into the toilet bowl. Like, it's right there, or into the urinal or whatever. Like, it's just right there. It's like, what? You know what I mean? Like, how, like, but that's another story. The point is, you get there and the place is filthy, and you can't be mad at the staff because, of course, they can't clean it while everybody's in there. So it's not like the staff aren't cleaning the toilets. It's just, there's so many people in there. By the time you get there, it's just dirty, and now you're kind of like, okay, it's a number one, so I could just stand up. Maybe it's not so bad. If it was a number two, bro, I'm just gonna have to. You ever walk into a toilet, right, and look at the thing and be like, you know what? No. No. Just no, like, no. I'm just going to be uncomfortable. Because the toilet is that dirty. That could happen. If you get to the toilet at the wrong time, that can happen. So again, that's another thing to think about. Do I go when it's packed out and, wait a while and it's just filthy by the time you get there? Or do I go during the movie where it's likely to be, a bit quieter, less people there, clean it because the staff would have had time to clean it, but then you're missing the movie. Either way, it's a bad choice. It's a bad choice. And then you got to think about food, because I know cinema food is overpriced. I get it. And look, I am not above sneaking food into cinema. I've done it bare times before. I may do it again. I just might. I'm not saying I will, but I might. Probably will. But yeah, I know cinema food is overpriced, but I like it. I like cinema food. I like to get the nachos. And I want to get the large nachos, right? I want to get the large. I want to get the salsa dip and the cheese dip and the sour cream dip. And if they got a fourth dip, I'll take that too. Because sometimes I ask which one do you want, and it's like, look, give me all of them. I want all of them. I don't want to make a choice. I want them all. Okay, choice. Give me a choice. I want the jalapenos on it. And I what I like, actually? Because sometimes they give it to you in these, they put the dips in these like little tubs that you have to, open the lid and then dip it in there. I like when they just squirt it all over the nachos. Like, it's just, like that. Just throw it all in there, all in there. That's what I like. But most places give you like little tubs and this is fine. Okay, fine. That would do. The point is, I want my food. And I know it's overpriced. I know it's way more than anybody should be spending on a week's shopping. But I want it, okay? So now I'm going to think about, queuing up to get food. Sometimes it's a long queue. Most of the times I go, the queues aren't too bad. But sometimes it's a long queue. So that's like, okay, I'm going to queue to the toilet. So I'm not going to take my food into the toilet. So I'm going to use the toilet first. So I'll go to the toilet. I'm queuing up there. That's a while. Now I'm queuing up to get food. That could be a while. All the while, it's like, okay, so when, so trade. I'll maybe back up a little bit because, of course, timing. Let's say you get in at 3:00 because the movie starts at 3:00. More specifically, a trailer starts at 3:00. The movie starts about 3:30. So if you get at 3:00, you go to the toilet. Say you're waiting a while. Maybe that's about 10 minutes or so. By the time you get in, you do your stuff. You come out. It's a dirty toilet, but you just breathe it and come out. Right? You come out. You queue up to get the food. That's maybe another 10 minutes or so. You just kind of like just getting into the cinema on time just before the movie starts, pretty much, or practically. You're really kind of scraping it at that point. But I don't want to do that. I don't want to be rushing into the cinema. So I want to try and get there a bit earlier. Now I don't have to try and get there at a point where maybe if they're saying 3:00, maybe I want to get there about 2:30 or give or take, so that I've got time to use the toilet. I've got time to queue up and get food. But now it's like, wait, if I do that at 2:30, look, my food is not going to last until the movie starts. Right? Let's keep it real. Like, if you get your food too early, matter of fact, even if you don't get it too early, your food's not going to last. Let's keep it all the way real. Like, you're going to get your food like 5 minutes before the movie starts. It's, you get into the cinema. The movie starts, let's say 5 minutes. Your food is going to be finished before that. So no matter what, your food is going to be finished before the movie starts. You're going to yam it all. I don't know what I do anyway. My food's gone. Like, but I'd have a whole thing like this, like a whole kind of spread. And I'd be like, Anyway, the point is, like, I know that I'm probably going to finish my food before the movie starts anyway. I just don't want to finish it that much before. So now I'm going to think about, okay, I'm here on time. Got to use the toilet now. Do it. And all this is like adding up, you know, like, because now I'm either there too early because I'm going to leave earlier. And then, okay, now I've used the toilet head, you know, if I drank too much, it's just a whole thing is what I'm trying to say. It's just a whole thing. It's not just about a 2-hour movie or a 2.5. And if it's a 3-hour movie, like I say, it's just even worse. But it's not just about the time frame of the movie. It's about everything that surrounds that, where it's like, okay, what time should I get there? Because I don't want to be queuing up to get food and then missing the movie. I don't want to be queuing up to use the toilet and missing the movie. I don't want to be coming out of the cinema to use the toilet and then missing the, you know what I mean? It's a whole thing about when you get there, what time, how long you've been holding your pee for, you know, all of that. Like, it's just a whole thing. So a lot of times I just look at these things like, you know what? I'm good. I'll just wait till it's on Disney Plus. I'll just wait till it's on Netflix. I'll wait till it's on Amazon Prime. It's fine. It's fine because, yeah, cinema is the best way to watch a movie. It really is, in my opinion, the best way to watch a movie. But when you start factoring all the other things around it, a lot of times I'm just going to be like, you know what? Let me just opt for convenience. I'll wait till it's in a format where I can pause it when I want to pause it. I can get up if I need to go. I can come back. I can unpause it. I can rewind it a little bit if I miss something, you know. Or I can pause it and just go to bed if I'm feeling a bit tired. That's another thing. If you pick a later showing and you start to feel a bit tired and you fall asleep in the cinema, it's like you can't. It's just tough. If you wait till it's on Netflix, at least I can pause it or whatever. Or Netflix is streaming, I can pause it, be like, yeah, we come back tomorrow. You know what I mean? Just go to bed, come back, and watch the rest of it the next day. You know, I can do that. So it's like, yes, the cinema is the best way. But it's just so much more convenience. And I think at this point in my life, convenience is just, I ain't gonna lie, man, convenience is king. Like, maybe not king. I mean, not for, but it's pretty up there. It's pretty up there is what I'm saying. Like, I would opt for convenience more often than not these days, just because it's so much less hassle, so much less stress, so much less to think about. And I like the cinema, and I know sometimes some cinemas are facing troubles, which sucks. You know, I think it's important to support cinemas, but it's also like, bruh, it's a lot, man. It's a lot. I feel like I support cinemas by buying their overpriced food. I might not go often, but when I do buy their overpriced food. So hopefully that counts for some support. But yeah, it just gets harder to justify with films coming out so quickly, and then when you just factor in the whole thing that you got to think about that surrounds going to this, it's just long. I'm like, you know what, bro, this thing's going to be on Netflix in a week. You know what I mean? Like, just wait. So anyway, that's why, I guess amongst the reasons why I don't go cinema all too much these days. What about yourself? Do you go cinema much? Let me know. But anyway, till then, peace.